Hi, I'm Aaron from Orlando.
Hi, I'm Stacy from Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Hi, I'm Mimi. I'm in Los Angeles, but for college, I was in the UK.
What How I Met Your Mother means to me is that grief is temporary. It means for me that happiness and humor are both found in the midst of great tragedy.
I saw as things happening in my life happened on screen in real time, sometimes even on the same day, which was a little weird, but good job.
The writers and the cast allowed those characters to feel all of those heartbreaks without the need for an additional laugh.
But unfortunately, the episodes didn't air on UK TV at the same time that they aired on US TV. So yes, I was pirating these episodes, like ripped streaming video link that frequently was reversed. So sometimes in my mind, the entrance to the apartment is on the other side of the screen.
I was reminded that things don't always go as planned, but they happen the way they're supposed to. And there's always going to be people around to make sure you're okay.
I'm alone. What a pity I won't be soon in New York City. When I see you, please permit me to tell you everything in New York City.
Hello and welcome to another episode of How We Made Your Mother. I am Josh Radner. I am here with Craig Thomas.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Craig. Also, Alec Lev, our producer and savior and Mr. Fix-It-All. And it's only our second episode, but we are already on a very special episode of How We Made Your Mother. It's very special because we have Carter Bays with us.
Oh,
no. Hi, Carter.
Hi, guys. How are you?
We're really good. Carter Bays, well, tell us why you're here, Carter. What hand did you have in the How I Met Your Mother verse?
I was there for a good deal of it.
You did a lot of props, I remember.
Yeah.
On the props.
Yeah,
I did some props. I was. I'm Carter and Craig. I'm the Carter of Carter and Craig. That was my job.
Carter and Craig.
I wish I'd pretended I didn't know Carter was the guest so we could have done the smartless thing. Just be like, oh my God, it's Carter.
So welcome, Carter. We're so happy you're here.
It's good to be here.
Yeah. So I love this story. This is kind of a iconic origin story for me that you guys have told me, but I want you to tell our audience. So Matt, you brought him 5 ideas? How many ideas did you bring, Matt?
Editor's note. Josh is talking about Matt Rice, who is Craig and Carter's TV agent.
How many ideas did you bring, Matt?
Probably a lot, probably more, probably 10.
More
we were just throwing out ideas and throwing out titles and areas, and we said,
were they kind of like
and
one-line pitches or just like very bare
kind of like log
ideas?
lines for like areas of what it could be? There was like one of them was like a David Spade vehicle. We were like chasing David Spade.
It was. I remember a document. I think there was like 4 things. Like we had was it Kings Road Cafe or was it Toast? It was one of these 2 places. Craig,
Kings Road Cafe, I think.
Was it?
No, it might have been Toast.
Was it Toast? I always get it wrong. But we had a meeting with Matt and over breakfast, and we were like to present our 4 ideas. And I think the first one we read was How I Met Your Mother. And he was like, that's it. That's the one. You can read me the other ones, but that's the one. And to his
credit, how did you pitch it to him? Do you remember what the kind of like log line of it was?
I think he liked the sort of storytelling perspective built into the title. And then when we started talking about how personal it would be to us, that it would be sort of like the couple that's a little bit like me and my wife, and the single guy that's a little bit like Carter at the time, I think he was just like, that's where your heart is. Your heart is, and you know how to write that. But his reaction was more like visceral and immediate. It was almost a little more magical than that. The more we talked about it, the more it was like, that also is right. What you know, do that one. Yeah. You don't know the worlds of these other things you're pitching, write your world. And we had moved from New York. We missed New York. That was part of the flavor of the show, our nostalgia for having left what was our home for a bunch of years. And he's like, you can do that. That's going to bring out the heart. So, right, Carter?
And to his credit, he's a softie, and he's got a real emotional core, that Matt Rice. And I think, he's kind of our age. He's a little bit older, but like, I think he wanted to see what we could do just writing about, because Oliver Bean was about a 12-year-old kid living in the 1960s, and then we were writing American Dad. We were writing all these shows that were like sort of not our world. We worked on the Method and Red sitcom. So I mean, Method Man was not. We aren't the natural choices to have the voice of Method Man. But yeah, I think he just saw that it was like, oh, this is going to be Craig and Carter really writing their own lives and talking about stuff that's going on with them, and that's exciting. There was a vulnerability to it that I think was that appealed to us too. I think, and to Matt's credit, also the second thing we pitched was a show that we had no business writing that we ended up selling to Fox, and I think Matt always knew. He was like, you can sell this one, but How I Met Your Mother is going to be the one that ends up going, and lo and behold, thank God.
Wow. And boy, do you realize that when you sit down to write them. You sit down to write one and you have a bajillion ideas, and the other one you're like, I don't know how to get to page 10 on this one. There's not going to be 9 seasons of this.
So did you have to, I know you're getting paid by 20th Century Fox in kind of like a holding deal. You can't write for anyone else. But did he just say, go write this pilot, go write How I Met Your Mother?
We pitched it verbally. We didn't write it. We pitched both verbally, and you go around town, you go to ABC at the time there was no streamers. Again, old, see aforementioned incredibly old people. And you drive around in person, no Zoom meetings. You drive to NBC, you drive to Fox, you drive to CBS, and you pitch them these ideas. And we did the rounds for both of those ideas. So we pitched all the same people, both of those ideas. One of them we sold to Fox, which was like the parent company of our deal. They were in the vertical integration of the deal. They didn't get They didn't want How I Met Your Mother though. We pitched it. How I Met Your Mother got a bunch of passes. We didn't. It landed at CBS. We thought it was going to land at NBC, but that didn't work out. And CBS really wanted it. It was just the moment that they were looking for a younger show.
I don't know if people. I guess maybe CBS is still like this, but like at the time, especially, it was like it was family sitcoms. It was King of Queens. Everybody Loves Raymond. It was
2.5
Men. Not shows.
It had
about
the
people
oldest demo, right? Like it didn't have the oldest audience of the major networks.
Like Letterman used to do jokes all the time about like the old people watching. It's like Matlock and his show, and like that's like that's CBS and 60 Minutes.
So when you pitch the show and CBS buys it, did you have the names Ted, Marshall, Lily, Barney, Robin? Were those characters? They were fully formed at that point?
We went in with like a fully formed pitch sheet. Yeah, we had each character, and like you write up a little description of each character, maybe 8 or 10 episode ideas, just in the shape of how the storytelling work. When you pitch them, sort of like 15 or 20 minutes of like through this pitch document, you kind of give them a flavor of what it will be. And by far the best response in the room was CBS. These wonderful women of CBS who got the emotion and the heart behind it. Wendy Trilling, Julie Pernworth, Edie Mendoza, and they got what this was. And they had just been in a meeting with their higher ups there, where the directive was, we want a younger skewing. Basically, we want Friends, which we did not want to come and just give them a Friends clone, but it definitely helped us that CBS wanted a Friends.
Yeah,
it was. I believe it was like it was like hauntingly good timing. Like it was that morning they had a meeting, and it was like I think the way I heard it phrased was, we're getting in the under 35 game, was how they said it. Like, we need you development department, go find us a show for people under 35.
Guys, we want to get the under 100 years old demo. We have the rest of it.
You guys were ready with the work, and then that was a stroke of luck and timing that was.
It's exactly that
for you guys.
We had to be in the place that really wanted us. And like, if we had ended up at NBC, like they had 3 other How I Met Your Mothers loaded in the chamber, like we might have gotten canceled. Who knows? Like
Friends had just finished.
Friends had just finished. And I think
we would have been so, as much as we dreaded those comparisons to Friends, imagine if we had been like the year Friends ended, like, and here's this other one, it somehow wouldn't have worked. But in the moment, we should say, we did not expect to be at CBS, and we were worried the show's too young, it's not going to work there. And look, it went 9 seasons, and people believed in it that worked there and supported it. So it was an amazing bit of luck.
And I wrote you this little ditty to sing to you in New York City.
We'll be right back.
This year, there is nothing, and I mean nothing, holding you back from loving your hair again. Hair is so much more than what you see on the surface. It's a reflection of what's happening inside. Let Nutrafol target the key root causes of your thinning hair and help you grow stronger, healthier strands from within.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people. See thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
Alec, how are you feeling about this ad?
I was wondering,
would it be uncomfortable if we sent you a box, or?
I think it might be. You might have missed the window, maybe. And Alec, our producer, Alec Lev, he's got a wonderful, beautiful, smooth
smile.
And I think I don't know. I don't know if this would work on him at this point. The statute of limitations might be. We could try it? Should we experiment? Give it a go? Alec, you on board?
Alec, tell us.
It's just staring at us.
Alec, tell us the story of when you shaved your head. What happened?
I was making a movie. I was a big movie star. I was making a movie, and they were shaving my head.
That's not the important part. Go on.
No.
And afterwards, the gentleman shaved my head, and he said, he said, hair is not for you, puppy. He thought I looked good. He said, hair is not for you, puppy.
And you do. You look fantastic.
You do look good.
You look fantastic. Hair is not for you, but it is for a lot of people. So, and it's different for men and women, as I'm seeing here. So a one-size-fits-all approach to hair growth doesn't cut it. Nutrafol has multiple formulas for men and women that are tailored to different life stages, such as postpartum or menopause. You can also get a plant-based version if that's part of your lifestyle. They'll give you just what you need.
Alec, if you could go back in time, this might apply to you. Physician formulated with 100% drug-free ingredients, Nutrafol supports healthy hair growth from within by targeting key root causes of thinning. Ooh, this is interesting. Stress, hormones, aging, nutrition, lifestyle, and metabolism through whole body health. Which of those did it for you, Alec?
I have all of those.
Okay, you have problems with all. Okay,
getting hit from all corners. So you can purchase this online. There's no prescription required. Automated deliveries, free shipping to keep you on track. Plus, with a Nutrafol subscription, you can save up to 20%. You'll have access to free naturopathic doctor consults, and this is super cool. A Headspace meditation membership is included to help with that stress.
So start your hair growth journey with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code YOURMOTHER.
Find out why over 4,500 healthcare professionals and stylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code YOURMOTHER. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code YOURMOTHER.
I like listening to you spell things, Josh.
And now, back to the show.
When you guys pitched it to all those places around town, did you have the 40 to 60 scene narrative structure, or was that something you discovered while you were writing?
I think we had, and That's How I Met Your Aunt Robin. And I know we had that. I don't know if we had like like every scene beaten out for sure, but we definitely, I don't think we had like a season arc of any kind, which I think nowadays, like in hindsight, this wasn't a place that wanted a season arc. Again, this is CBS in 2005. Like what's the season arc on King of Queens? Like there is no arc. It's the same show 22 times in a row.
You never even
funny,
found out
great,
in the end who the king was. I don't think they even answered that.
Actually, that's worth also pointing out to our listeners who are using magical devices to listen to all this. Like the notion that it's a big deal that How I Met Your Mother really needs to be seen from beginning to end. You could pop in if you wanted to, but nowadays on Netflix, of course you're doing that. You're just watching 8 straight in a row. But can you just talk a little bit about that style of sitcom at the time, that this was very different from?
It's funny. I'm having a fight with my daughter right now about this very thing, because now it's advanced to like she's somehow got her hands onto TikTok. We thought we barred up all the windows, but TikTok found its way in through the cellar or something, and like she's watching like cut downs of scenes on TikTok and like finding out twists in the series. And I'm like, no, we were supposed to sit down and watch this together, just like the Ted and the kids. There's going to be a whole thing. But yeah, anyway, at the time Craig and I think our favorite show on TV at that time was Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which we had both devoured on, like, it was right at the dawn of like the DVD box set, like the season box set. And we loved these CVD because they told individual stories, like each episode, it's the one where this happened, the one where that happened, but they're beautifully laid out as in this season-long arc that like has this big satisfying conclusion at the end of the season. And I remember thinking like our goal when it's like we're going to make a show was like, if this show makes it a full season, we're not even going to hope for more than one season, but just to make something that there's a DVD box set of.
Oh yeah,
I think that was the goal. I feel like it was nothing beyond that. It was like
we said it would be like a novel on our shelf, right, Carter? We're like, I want that little spine. I want the spine that says How I Met Your Mother season 1. Even if it gets canceled, we always have that one little novel says thing of a technology that's going to disappear in 5 years. Is what
it was like right before or right around the time the whole I think of my show as a novel became a cliche, but it was like right before it became a cliche. So we weren't quite cliche.
We were the first ones to say that bullshit line,
but it was like, I mean, that was and CBS when we pitched it didn't say like what happens in episode 2, what happens in episode 5, which should have clued us in, because we wanted to tell it. We felt like this is the first chapter of a saga. Like we're going to tell a story, and I mean, and maybe this is a discussion for down the road, but it became there was some big disagreements about like what kind of show we were making, because they wanted a show that anyone who hasn't seen the show can just jump right in on any given Monday in February and just drop right in and be like, okay, I got it. I see what's going on, and I can watch this. Whereas Craig and I, we had our eyes on, the season box set. We had our eyes on like, we're making something that people will sit down and devote a whole afternoon when they're sick in bed to just like watching season 1 of How I Met Your Mother.
But at the beginning, we really looked 15 years old. We'd never run a TV show. We were writing these weird 70-scene scripts in 21 minutes. And they took a second for them to kind of understand, can this fit into the Monday night lineup? It
really strikes me that it's so hard to create something new in Hollywood in that structure that moves so glacially. I think what was so smart about the way you guys conceived of this show is like 5 friends hanging out had been done and seen before. But you have this other thing of like framed as a flashback, the nonlinear structure, this kind of wildly inventive new storytelling. I used to tell people, they would say, what's the show like that you're doing? And I'd say, it's like if Pulp Fiction was a sitcom. There was something about the way it was a puzzle, right? And sometimes there were episodes that were very puzzle-like of How I Met Your Mother, where just like Ted Mosby Architect is like a very strange mystery, right? Until you get what's happening at the end.
Yeah.
And it rewards your patience and fidelity to it, which is why I think, 1, it scared probably the network, but 2, I think that's what created some of the fervor and excitement and loyalty to the show among the hardcore fans, was they got invested in a different way because they felt like they were growing alongside or with the characters.
Yeah, I think the audience felt respected, and the audience felt like they were sort of our accomplices in this little weird kind of mystery crime we were trying to pull off. And they felt invested. And it's funny how a lot of the best episodes of How I Met Your Mother are mini mysteries within this larger mystery. That's another thing that I always kind of love about what works on that show, on our show.
Yeah, like being able to use that device for puzzle building was always fun. Like episodes like 3 Days of Snow. I don't know if you remember that one, but or The Burning Beekeeper, things that really like Pulp Fiction was absolutely. I mean, I don't think anyone our age who was into movies didn't catch some flack from that. Like just the creative energy just vibrating off of it. Like I feel like it seeped its way into everyone.
Picked it up. You had to pick it up.
I remember.
Tarantino,
when I read episode 2, after the show had been picked up, I was so delighted that the DNA of what I loved about the pilot was just even more there in the second episode. I was like, oh, it's just going to keep moving like this. And I was delighted by it. So I do want to ask you guys, CBS says yes. They're not going to make the pilot. They order a script. Is that right?
Yeah, they order a script. You write the pilot script and submit some episode ideas for future episodes, which we already were kind of had and probably mentioned in the pitch. But then you more formally do that along with a script. You spend the whole fall of 2004. We were writing on American Dad, and then at night on the weekend writing How I Met Your Mother.
Mistress was How I Met Your Mother.
Our mistress. hot torrid affair with How I Met Your Mother, and a less torrid affair with the other failed pilot we weren't that into writing, and far less torrid. And we sort of did that through the fall of 2004, right, Carter? And like you submit drafts and you get feedback, and then we thought they liked it, but they buy like, what do they buy? 30 scripts, 30 pilot scripts, and they make 10 of them, something like that. Probably I'm getting the numbers wrong. We didn't think we'd ever even be one of those 10. Maybe they buy 50 scripts and make 10. And then we were one of those 10. By this time the late winter, spring was rolling around, they say, you're going to be one of the 10 we shoot.
Yeah, it was back in the I'll say the good old days of like when networks, all development was on the same schedule. Like it was everybody, every writer in Hollywood who has a TV show they want to make pitches it like in the summer and early fall. And the ones that sell them, everyone is writing their script and hand it in. You hand it in right before winter break. So like you go home to wherever you're going home to and just spend
and then
Christmas,
the actors wait for January, February, and March, April, which is called pilot season, where they're casting them.
Yeah, like January is when the phone rings and it's, okay, we're making it. Like they take those 30 scripts that they bought and they say, we're going to make 8 of them. And these 8 pilots are going to get shot. And I'll tell this story, Craig. I don't know if you remember this. Like Craig and I were at, I think it was the premiere of American Dad. There was a premiere party for American Dad in Las Vegas. And Craig and I were in Las Vegas and had a really fun night out. Or it might have been, maybe it was before the party.
Very pineapple incident. Very pineapple incident, which then became the Hangover.
Like, I think it was before the party, because before the party, the phone rang and it was Matt Rice or maybe David Miner. And it was like, let's get both of them on the phone. So like, we knew like, okay, they want both of us on the phone. This is going to be something. And they said it was the head of development saying like, we're good news. We love your script. We want to make it. We want to make a pilot. So you're making a pilot. And we hang up. We're like, yeah, we did it. We go downstairs. We like celebrate. We tell all our friends at American Dad. They're like, oh, that's great. You're making a pilot. And like, we have a great night. And then like wake up at like 1 PM, and just kind of connect. And I don't remember exactly how this story unfolded, but basically like Craig and I are just like, oh, making a pilot. This is good. This is good.
Go to the pool.
Yeah, go to the pool, relax.
More.
And like, we get a call from somebody. I don't know, maybe it was Matt Rice. It might have been somebody, but it was basically like, so when is your, how many casting director meetings have you had so far? We're like, what do you mean? He's like, you haven't, well, you have some booked, right? You have some casting director, because what you don't know is that when it's pilot season and your pilot gets picked up, it becomes this mad scramble supermarket sweep for the best talent. And you have to like rush out there and find like, you have to book your casting director right away. You have to book your director right away. You have to book, like, otherwise they'll get snatched up and you won't get them. And so that became like the story of January and February was us like scrambling to like cobble together this ragtag crew who would like be willing to like take a chance on two ding dongs who
did never. They expect you the moment you got the green light for your pilot that you would just immediately start calling casting directors?
These guys are professionals, so they clearly know. I feel like that call may have come from CBS, actually. I think maybe CBS.
And we got kind of yelled at. They're like, what the fuck are you doing in Vegas? You got a casting director. What's happening? Like right off the bat, we were just completely in over our head, didn't know how to, because you make this immediate leap from writer in a room just coming up with ideas to CEO of a corporation that is being given 7 figures to make a pilot.
I mean, this was like just the mothership descending. Like, look, it's literally the mothership. Like, it was like nothing like anything that had been on CBS.
Title for the podcast. That's good.
Yeah.
I just wrote that down.
Interesting. There you go. The mothership descent.
And you have to suddenly put on this boss hat that you have never worn before, really. And that was the code. That was the very hungover wake up call. Get on the ball, guys. Go get back to Los Angeles. Meet 6 casting directors. Hire the one you're lucky enough that doesn't get hired by the time they're walking to their car after meeting with you, because they just met 4 other people that morning. And they're going to choose, if I'm a casting director, I'm going to choose anyone but us, Carter, because we looked 12 years old. We didn't know what we're doing. We were hungover from Vegas. Like, God knows what the casting directors were thinking of us. We have backpacks on.
I think that's true, but I also, just to give us some credit, I feel like we wrote a really good pilot, and the further I get from it, the more the more pilots I've tried to write in my life, and you realize like it really there was something special to it, and it also, like, the great thing about it was this self-sorting thing where there were certainly a lot of people that had that reaction and said no and were like, no thanks. but that left more room for the people who got it, like the people like Pam Fryman.
Found people.
and
It took
Megan
on a
Brandon.
magical. This is very woo-woo, but it really did feel like it found people, including Mr. Josh Radnor. And my God, it became magic the way it found the right people.
Well, it also feels like something that everyone loves is probably not that special. Like a special thing is going to mystify certain people.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And I think that was the case here.
And I always think a project itself acts as a kind of glowing orb. It attracts the right people, and I do feel like How I Met Your Mother had a kind of frequency that brought people into its orbit who belonged there. Namely, who actually is just a huge hero of the show, who we all adore. But how did Pam Fryman, our beloved director, how did you find your way to her or her to you?
I mean, that's the perfect example. And that happened. That she could have directed any pilot. She was a hot in-demand director. She had been directing on 2.5 Men, which was like the #1 comedy at the time, I think. And again, she was probably given 20 job offers that year, right, Carter? She could have done anything. She just read this and connected to it. She said, I have to meet these guys. And she probably turned down other things to meet with us and come and basically said, this one got my heart. This got me. The rhythm of this was different. It melted my heart at the end. It genuinely surprised me in the end. Its storytelling structure and the way it jumps around. And she had not gotten to do play with that sort of rhythm before. And she wanted to direct it. She basically said, I want to do this. And we didn't think we could get her. We did not think we could get her, but she kind of chose us, which was amazing.
Yeah. So let's, okay. So you've got this pilot. It's greenlit by, bought by 20th. It's greenlit by CBS. They want to make a pilot. You scramble for your casting director. You got the hottest multicam director in town in Pam Fryman. And then you have to find your cast.
Yes.
And let's talk about that. What was that like?
That was where things went wrong.
That's where we finally hit a brick wall.
Because this is where I joined the story.
Josh, I want your version of that story, because you were day one, right?
Yeah.
This is everything about this story of How Much Mother's creation, it never goes this way.
Yes.
Including this part. Day one.
The Tarantino version, we now cut to Josh's story.
Yeah, back it up.
Josh's
and now
story.
POV switch, Himium style, whip pan, flashback.
So, yeah, I'll just say I got out of NYU graduate acting program in 1999. I was doing a lot of theater. I was on Broadway. I'd done 3 pilots or 4 pilots. I can't remember. My first one I got replaced on. The second one got canceled after 6 episodes. The third one never got picked up by NBC, a pilot I did with Rob Reiner. So How I Met Your Mother, I think, was my 4th pilot. I had gotten in the place where I was really good at booking them kind of quickly. Like I kind of cracked the algorithm a little bit. Like I knew, and I also was very good at determining, like, okay, I'm good for this role. I'm kind of the right person for this role. And I remember How I Met Your Mother being something that, and maybe this is in hindsight, but I remember reading it and I just was like, I know how to play this guy. Like, I absolutely know how to play this guy. I know where the jokes are. I know what the rhythm is. I know when to get sincere. I know when to undercut the sincerity with a joke. Like, I just understood how you guys had written him, and I understood it in some sort of like cellular way. And I remember going over it with a friend for the audition, and I read through it like twice, and I just knew it. I memorized it. And I have found as an actor, I've run this through with a lot of other actors, the better the writing, the easier to memorize, because it psychologically makes sense. Like, your next right move is the next right line that you want. And when something's poorly written, it's almost like it has a hard time sticking to your ribs, right? So I just knew that I knew how to play the guy. And the 2 scenes that I was supposed to audition with, it was Kobe in the bar, or Robin at that time in the bar, where she throws a drink in my face, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then after the date gone awry, where I have the monologue to her, I suck at being single, but I'd be a really good husband, right?
Yeah.
The big speech.
So I remember I woke up that morning. It was early mid-January. It was one of my first pilot auditions of the season. It was raining, I remember that day. And I was bummed because I've always been like what's the opposite of a pathetic fallacy? Like I look towards the weather to tell me what's going to go, what's going to happen. And I thought, no, this is supposed to be my good audition day. It can't be raining. But I got there, I walk in.
And yet rain is an important part of the whole series.
That's true. That's true. I walk in, Megan Brandman, the casting director, you two, Pam, and Rob Greenberg, right? Who was kind of, was he assigned to you guys as like a wiser, steadier hand, like yes. An older?
Yes,
he looked like
a generous
an adult,
way of putting
and we
it.
looked like children.
Babysitter's another way of.
But he was a Frasier writer.
It was like what a zookeeper is to chimps. That's what Rob was.
Yeah. So that was the room.
A zookeeper who sometimes flings his own poop.
Yeah, Rob could fling some poop.
But Dylan was in the room, right? Dylan was videotaping it. Megan Brandman, the cast director, you guys, Pam, and Rob. Yes. I remember a little bit of chit chat about Ohio with Carter.
Well,
right?
Yeah. I mean, can we now flat? Because I'll just to drop in like.
Oh, sure.
For me, writing. Okay, so now we're popping back and forth.
Go ahead.
This is gonna
Very
be
him.
For me personally, like Craig and I, we, at the risk of like we never set out to make something that's like autobiographical. Like we didn't name the characters Carter and Craig, but there was like it was a big starting point of single guy who's just gotten engaged. That was a big starting point, and it was. We were especially coming from. It was in a time in comedy, like coming from writing American Dad, when like there was a lot of snark and a lot of not in a bad way, but like a lot of like shocking comedy and comedy that's kind of mean and zingers and stuff like that. And the scary part of writing this was it was very vulnerable and it was very like honest and it was very true. And it felt like especially that speech that Ted gives, I remember feeling like this was like a page out of my diary. And I felt like I was writing something that was kind of about my life at that time. I had been dating for a while. I had like had a bunch of romantic mishaps here and there, like anyone does, and I was at a point where I was like, I'm ready for the big time, but I can't find the right person, and so all of that got poured into that speech, and it was the kind of thing that like I would think about my fellow writers at American Dad reading this speech and thinking like, oh god, this is, but it was like but that's what makes it good, and that's why if it's scary, that's why you have to.
I think Arthur Miller said something like the writing, the best writing is the stuff that humiliates you as you're writing it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. And so that speech, we had never heard that speech aloud. And okay, so I'm going to now give a little context to you walking in the room, which was we got a casting director, Megan Brandman, and she said, first meeting, I've got Ted. I've got your Ted. I have no idea who Robin's going to be. I've got some ideas for Barney. I've got some ideas for Marshall, Lily. I've got Ted. We're like, okay. And I'm thinking like, oh, you found a guy from Ohio who, went to a liberal arts school like Wesleyan, which, Kenyon is very, I almost went to Kenyon. They're very, very comparable. I'm sure you really have Ted. And then, but then sure enough, first day of casting, first audition. Like it was the first. Am I right about this?
Yeah, for day one, audition one, raining outside in Los Angeles. Josh Radnor walks through the door as if he's brought New York with him. I think the rain was perfect. You brought New York in the door.
Totally. Yeah, and first time we had heard these scenes out loud, read by actors, by by anyone other than us. In the privacy of our little like writer studio wherever we were. So it was like it was a big moment.
And this old man, he must admit he fell in love with you in New York City.
And now, commercials. Hey Josh, I was wondering, do you have any travel plans coming up?
It's funny you should ask, Craig. I am taking my guitar on the road. I'm going on tour. Late April. I'm starting in Seattle. I'm going to Portland, zipping down the West Coast. I'm going to San Francisco, Sacramento, Los Angeles, San Diego, and then Phoenix to the Musical Instrument Museum, which is an incredible museum, by the way.
Wow.
Do you know about this?
No,
Musical Instrument
that's a real thing in Phoenix. Tell me what it is.
They take you through a tour of world history, but only with musical instruments.
Oh my God.
It's
that's
unbelievable.
So cool. That's
Elliot
so cool.
would freak out.
My son would, that would be
You have to get him
for
to the Musical Instrument Museum. But anyway, so I'm going on tour. I'm taking some songs on the road. I'm super excited.
That's really cool. Definitely, everybody. Two thoughts here. Go see Josh play music, and maybe if you're in Phoenix, get to that museum. My second thought is the only note I have on this for you, Josh. The only note I have on this entire concept is that while you're away, you could host your place on Airbnb to make a little extra cash.
You know what? That's a great idea.
You could. It's just gonna sit. Your house is just gonna sit there empty, doing nothing. Instead, you could put it to work.
It's just gonna sit there, gathering dust.
Listen to this. Your home might be worth more than you think. Find out how much at airbnb.com/host. End of commercials. Back to show.
And then we cut to Josh walking in the door. Josh's POV.
Yeah. So I remember we talked about Ohio. I remember it just being like one of those auditions. And back then I was auditioning a lot. Like I'd gotten pretty good at it. Like I knew how to walk into a room. I knew how to do the minimal amount of chit chat that was effective and not too much. And but I do remember doing the first scene. It went great. The vibe in the room was terrific. I remember that felt really good. And I remember when I hit that speech, I could feel Pam and I think Megan, like I could feel part of the way, and I think I felt you guys too, but I felt like, this is where they wanted the speech to live. Like this is what I think they wrote. Yeah. And I gave them what they're looking for. And I don't remember if you guys had me do the scenes with any adjustments. I might have just read them once.
Do you remember what Megan said to you after you finished that speech?
Oh, did she say, "Will you marry me"?
She said, "Will you marry me?"
Yeah, that's what
our casting director proposed. So that's a good for those young actors out there.
Yes,
if you audition and you get proposed to by the casting director, you're probably going to get that role.
Yeah, you call your agent afterwards. You say, "Well, I did this whole speech, and afterwards the casting director said, 'Will you marry me?' Do you think that's a good sign?"
So we all wanted to marry you. We all felt that way. You melted our hearts.
So I remember going back to my car. And so this is very inside baseball. And I don't even know if it's still this way, but you used to have to test for the studio and test for the network. There were these 2 hoops if you got past the initial producer session, which is what I had with you guys. So also this is maybe worth mentioning. My agent at the time, who I was with for about 14 years, she used to tell me the only power you have as a young actor is the ability to say no.
Right.
And I didn't have much power. I wasn't a known actor. I was known in the business. Casting directors knew me. A couple showrunners knew me. But I had gotten a reputation as being like a little picky as a young actor. And I remember Megan had pitched.
We were told that by Megan.
Yeah, Megan said,
we really were told that.
I don't know if he'll come in. He's picky. So when you saw me on the list, you're like, "Oh, Josh Radder's going in."
So we felt accepted by you. We were like, he liked us. The picky guy liked us.
Yeah.
We're so needy.
So that was a real gift my agent gave me, was saying like, be discerning, Yeah. So I would only throw my hat in the rings for stuff I really believed in. And I believed in your show. By the time I got back to the car, my agent called me and she said, "Well, that was quick. They want to do a test deal with you. They want to take you to the studio."
Your car was 10 feet away, too.
So then you guys also had a couple more days of seeing other Teds, right?
We had to keep seeing other Teds, even though we knew it's so shitty. I feel bad because we knew we had you, and then other people come in, and nobody could be you.
Great actors.
Great people came in, and you need to go into the studio with a few in the network to test, to go into a room with the executives and have you, and as it turned out, Kobe, do chemistry reads and see. But we had to have that happen with a couple of other people, but we knew we were in love with you. All of us were, and that's harrowing because we could have had a different feeling than the network. The network could have been like, "No, it's not him," and that would have been so heartbreaking. But everybody, one after the other, went, "We get it." Yeah. And that doesn't always happen either, kids. That does not always happen.
Yeah. Well, I found in show business, and maybe it's like this in other areas of life, but if a job is not yours, the door won't open.
Yeah.
And it just simply won't open, no matter how right you think you are for it, how much you want it. If the job is yours, the doors keep flying open.
Yeah.
And I've learned to trust effortlessness in my career. Like when you click with people and it's easy and fun and you're all just, the enthusiasm is really high. You want to make the thing. It's like, I sometimes think effort, like hard grinding effort, can be a little overrated.
Definitely.
That you need to pay attention to where things are actually in flow.
Yeah.
I think
true in writing as well.
And that's cool to hear you say that, because and you've now been on both sides of the table, having written and directed your own movies and stuff. Like, it is like, you at the beginning of these sessions, you get this list, and here's who we're seeing today, and it's like a list, and it's like a name, and then a little space for you to write your comments, and so it's just like a very clean sheet of paper with like 9 names, and you just like see that, and you think like, these are like 9 people right now, just hoping that their name, like, and it's, by the way, it's this like 9 different branches of like where the universe could go. This could be a show with this person as Ted, or this person as Ted, and I feel like it's a lot of the stuff we talked about on How I Met Your Mother, because just the fact that like destiny takes such a big part in the search for love, and I feel like How I Met Your Mother at its core is like, it's this struggle between, is falling in love something that I go out and seek? Do I take action to meet the person that I spend the rest of my life with? Or is it something that happens to me and I have to just sit back and let it happen? And that's the casting process. I mean, it really is like, I feel like there's no way to...
Well, there's no
answer to that. It's an unsolvable question.
There's a good theme has emerged of our conversation of just like, there's some preparation and then there's some luck and letting go and leaning into that part too. And you're right, Josh, in writing too. It's like, you can't, if you're forcing it too hard, that might be a sign that it's not quite right. And the doors did keep opening for you. Yeah.
In some ways, you guys had to honor the themes of your show in the creation of your show.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like you had to be open to like the right person at the right time. So I'm trying to remember. So I go to the studio. Yeah. You had one other guy there, I think another Ted.
The other guy was
Can we say who it was?
We can say it was Bob Saget. He was a little too old for the role, and that's why he became future Ted.
A consolation prize. Yeah.
He was really good, but it's like, you're just a little old. But no, I don't think we should say names of who it was.
No, let's not say names.
Everything was just lies. But very talented, very talented actor.
Can I just throw this in? It's someone who I remember being there, and because you go to these things and there's always 2. And everyone in the room, including the head executives at CBS, everybody knows there's the guy that they want, and then there's the other guy that they're bringing in just to show like, but we really want this guy. And I think everyone knew that, including both of the actors involved. And I remember feeling, just because my mind always says like, how can I have more anxiety about this moment? Okay, I'll feel bad for this guy. And I remember, because he was really, and I'm not to say who he was, but he went on to be super funny and great on another show that I was a huge fan of, and so
actor. Yeah,
so
totally. It worked out right.
It was nice to see that.
Can I say I do know this story that really made me laugh. It's a Rob Greenberg line, because I think I also had to read a Barney scene. It was Barney trying to get me to go to laser tag or something in the test, and Rob Greenberg apparently said afterwards about the other guy, I feel like he wants to go to laser tag. Like he would go to laser tag. I really believe Josh did not want to go to laser tag with this guy.
Yeah. Maybe like a little jockier, a little different energy. Yeah, there's something it had to be plausible that you would not have gone. And you would not have gone to laser tag, and that's why you were right.
No, I'm just curious, like just when people become so important and kind of iconic in your life, like there's that moment when you see them for the first time that kind of gets etched in your own personal history. Like, I'm just curious how you envisioned Robin Scherbatsky. I don't know if that was her last name in the pilot, was it? I think you came up with that later.
It was Robin Kitty Scherbatsky is a character from Anna Karenina, I think. I fancied myself a reader, and I was like, I'm going to read Anna Karenina, and got like 20 pages into it, and then
stole one name.
You got what you needed. You
stole one name, and that was it. Yeah. Yep, exactly. Tolstoy, I gotcha.
Did you have an idea in your head of who this woman was?
It's interesting because you've got 5 main characters. 4 of them were absolutely drawn from real life. Like Ted Marshall and Lily were me, Craig, and Rebecca. And again, like then
it becomes
9 other writers
thing.
come in and like add hang their own stuff on the Christmas tree. But and Barney was very much inspired by a couple guys that sort of were that kind of Falstaffian presence in our lives. When we lived in New York. The only character who was completely made up whole cloth was Robin. And so it really was like the casting process was sort of this process of like, let's see if we can find her. Let's see who this could be. It really was like, it wasn't like, oh yeah, heaven knows, like I think Neil got cast as Barney despite the fact that he sort of was physically nothing like the people that Barney was based on, but like that,
I remember you guys tossing around Jack Black as a prototype. Like I think you saw him much more like
another road.
Right?
There was
bigger and
there was like a Vince Vaughn road and like a Jack Black road, but we were more down the Jack Black road, I think, wouldn't you say, Carter? And then like Neil came in and it was like, shit, that's too good. It's too good.
But I do think the one insight that I think we happened upon that I'm proud of us for happening upon was this feeling, because of course you get picked up, and of course the first thing is like, who can we get in it that will help its chances of getting on the air?
Who's famous?
But there was a feeling like, I remember thinking like, so much of Robin is built into this moment where Ted looks across the crowded bar and sees this person. And we see her for the first time as Ted's seeing her for the first time.
Yeah.
And if it's someone that you already have this built-in expectation of like, oh, I loved her in this, or I hated her in that, like you're outside of the moment, and you're not having that. It's not that moment of like, there's a mystery here to be solved. I want to get to know this person.
But it can't be like you see a person and you're like, I know what you did last summer. It can't be that.
Yeah.
It has to be like,
you have to not know what they did last summer.
You have to not know what they did any summer, because
tell me about your summer.
I think
a mystery about
me and Kobe's relative obscurity or anonymity at that point really served us. It served you guys in the story, because you're discovering these people, you're discovering them, and you want to feel like you've just happened upon them rather than having any
it was sort of
foreknowledge of them.
Yeah, it was perfect who was more famous and who was not more famous in that of those 5. You know what I mean? Like the famous people fell into the right spots in the cast. And we met you. The word met is in the title. It's about meeting people. We meet Ted. We've never seen you before. We meet Robin. And that, you're right. It was like the audience met you guys.
But Carter, it also occurs to me when you're talking about Robin being invented out of whole cloth, on some level, she was the woman you were hoping to meet, right? Like she was she became dimensional and spiky and all these things, but she was like, what if I looked across the bar and just spotted this woman? What would she be like?
For sure. She was, she was built that way by like, it was a combination of like, make her everything that would be like, of course he falls in love with this person, but also give her things that it was almost like, it's in sort of like judoing the, like, what's the tension of this series going to be? Like, we've got this character, who just wants to, his drive is fall in love. He's like, has this, like, he gets hit by lightning in this first episode of like, eureka, I want to get married. I'm like ready. Okay, my friend just got engaged. I want to settle down. Like, how do we create tension? And I feel like that sort of like naturally led to Robin just becoming this character that her central drive, at least at the beginning, is I don't want to settle down.
But I do remember my first seeing Kobe for the first time down a hallway, walking towards me. And, you just have to do all this, chit chat. And then you are supposed to, simulate this thing together. But I do remember I think the network test. So it was just me by the time, I think you just brought me to the network. Is that right? Or did you bring both guys?
God, Carter, you remember? I feel like in the network you have to still bring 2 people. I feel like there's always another person. I can't remember, but maybe it was just you by that point. Maybe because when you were with Kobe in a scene, that was the network, I think, and that was probably just you guys.
Oh yeah, that was okay. So maybe the studio.
That was a big deal. That's Kobe, the last step before you were officially hired. Yeah.
But I do remember I kind of would get these waves of heroic confidence. Like the higher stakes it got, I would get like a little more like, I'm gonna get this, like it was this competitive streak came out in me. And I would sometimes say things that were like just a little like chutzpah-y in a way that was like risky. But I remember when Kobe, she threw an actual drink in my face. She had some water and she threw the water in my face and everyone laughed. And the scene's over at that point. And I turned to the brass at CBS and 20th and I said, as if this process weren't humiliating enough.
That's really
and it got, it got this like really big laugh. And I felt like that was good. I just wanted them to know, like, I just wanted them, I always hated the power imbalance in being an actor and saying like, please give me this role. And I always wanted them to know, like, I got something going on here. I hope you understand. So I just wanted to level it the tiniest bit because it's so outsized, the power when you walk in there and there are these executives that run empires.
Seated in like bleacher level, like theater seating, like tiered seating. Like it's a little theater, a little play just for them.
The whole thing's stage managed to make you nervous.
It's not comfortable. It's very stressful, and it's
like
weird
on purpose. They want to see that you can rise to like be like really like under the gun and
there's
perform.
pressure in the air in that room. And Carter and I, of course, feel like total frauds. We're sitting in these bleachers with all these executives. Meanwhile, 2 months earlier, we're the people bringing our little script to them. Like, please, we were the you a month earlier, and now we're in the judgy seats. And so, like, I had such empathy for you in that moment. But you were great, and you and Kobe, the energy of you and Kobe, undeniable.
I did feel loved and supported by you guys, by Pam, by Rob Greenberg, by Megan and Dylan. Like, I felt like the people that I had established this rapport with in that first room were really on my side. So I felt some wind at my sails. But I can't remember if we got the offer, or it might have been a Friday. We maybe had to wait till a Monday. I can't remember. I don't think it was immediate, but I got the job like within days. And then next thing you know, we're making a podcast about this thing. Do you guys know the West Memphis Three? The three kids who were railroaded they were on death row for killing this, I think, girl. It was kind of a satanic panic thing. And they were called the West Memphis Three, and they got put on death row as teenagers. And they were totally innocent. It was like an absolute sham. But I think they were on death row for about 20 years. And there was this guy, Damien Eccles, who I ended up doing an evening at Joe's Pub with, this kind of evening of written letters. And I met him backstage. And he'd been on death row for 20 years. Wow. And I introduced myself to him because I had just seen a documentary about them. And he said, I hope it's okay to say this. I'm such a fan. I watched so much How I Met Your Mother when I was behind bars.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
I've never heard that from you. You've never told
me. And I
said,
can I ask you, like, what was it about the show? I'm always so curious. What was it about the show that you wanted to see? And he said it was fake enough that it took me away from where I was, but it was real enough that it promised a world that I was hoping I could rejoin one day.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing.
And that always stayed with me, that kind of like hyper real, but real kind of quality and what that can do to people. You can look at the show as diversion from your troubles, or you can look at the show as a meta commentary on your real troubles in your real life, right? Like it's got this... Yeah. It's got this ability to meet people where they are. That part of what we're doing, Carter, Craig and I keep talking about this mystery that we're trying to solve of like, why does How I Met Your Mother, why has it lasted so long? Why do new generations keep discovering it? And why does it seem to be medicine, like soul medicine for people in hard times? But that story about Damien is like, I think really illustrates something about that.
That's one of my favorite reviews of the show or assessments of the show I think I've ever heard.
That's beautiful, yeah.
There is so much more to our talk with Carter, and you'll be able to hear it soon in a bonus episode of the show. So look out for How Craig Met Carter if you want to delve into that sordid history. No, it's not sordid. It's delightful. If you follow or subscribe to the show, all our bonus episodes will just show up in your feed. So hit that subscribe button. Also, starting next week, we will begin our official rewatch of each episode of How I Met Your Mother, starting with the pilot. We strongly suggest that you watch the episode before listening to our discussion. We know that most of you will have seen it once or twice, or according to the amazing messages you have sent us, 17 or 30 times. But it's time to start again. So rewatch with us. And if it's your first time watching, welcome. We're so happy you're here. The very first day that we announced this podcast, we received questions and stories from around the world, and we're looking forward to all of you sending yours in as well. Just go to the website, howwemadeyourmother.com, and click on Contact. And here are just a few of those incredible questions and stories we received from around the world. This one is from Kajal in India. Hello, legendary people. Assuming I'm the first one to write. Why would he assume that? I don't know.
He was correct.
Very
he was. This was the first. Okay,
this
amazing.
Is the first message.
Kajal, forgive me.
Oh my God.
You were the first one to write.
Babe Ruth.
Assuming I'm the first one to write, and he was. Just wanted to wish the best of luck for this podcast. Can't wait to hear what you guys have got to say. Thank you, Kajal.
Wow, badass, Kajal. Okay, this one's from Michael in Iran. He says, every time the gang laughs or cries, or in any matter emotional, I have these feelings too.
This one's from Mia in Germany. First, thank you so much for this podcast. I'm rewatching the show every time I finish it. My first tattoo is going to be in honor of Himyam. There's no way to get this data, but I'm really curious how many How I Met Your Mother tattoos are in the world.
I mean, I feel like I've seen literally dozens in person.
I've seen
send them.
upwards, of 100. I mean, it's incrable. So thank you for staining your bodies with memories of our shows.
That's commitment. I'm not sure I like the show that much. Here we go. This one's from Daniel. He's from Peru. He says, Himyam is my comfort series. I watch it when I'm happy, when I am sad, when I am mad. I want to thank you, Craig and Carter, I'm adding that, for creating this piece of art, and you, Josh, for giving your heart and soul to this project. I own a little music box that plays La Vie en Rose and own a ducky tie.
This one's from Julia in Austria. The show helped me through some of the harder times, especially my quarter-life crisis, when seemingly all of my friends have been in relationships and I was still on my own trying to figure out life.
From Danella from Chile, she wrote to us in Spanish, and we got it Google translated, which led to this. I started watching this series about 2 or 3 years ago. My husband recommended it to me, and I became obsessed with each of the episodes, the story, how the stories were woven in time, the flashbacks of the seasons, the pineapple, the goat, the pumpkin, etc. My obsession has been so great that my husband and I agreed that we would only watch it once a year. That's better English than I speak in, so good job, everybody.
Only watch the entire series once a year. Is that right?
Interesting. Well, I wonder how many times she's up to then. What does that equal?
And how long it takes to watch the entire series.
Right.
Because if you watched one a day, it would be 2/3 of a year.
Right? that's a good point. So it
still takes up a lot of your year.
She's not minimizing it that much if she's watching it at that rate. Okay. But I love it.
This one is from Amanda in New York City. There are no words to describe what the show How I Met Your Mother means to me, but I will try. I was 19 when I watched the show for the first time, which was only 7 months ago. Showed to me by my friend Samantha, who claimed I'd love it. I didn't believe her at first, but that night we watched half of season 1 and I was hooked. I think How I Met Your Mother taught me it was okay to take time to get where you need to be. Finding comedy in serious situations, especially the way the show executed it, is a metaphor that I've used in my real life. You need to find the humor and joy in even the most dire situations. That really is the only way you can truly get past them. I can say with my full chest that this show saved me from a really hard time in my life and taught me it was okay and to never give up, because in the end, you'll end up where you need to be, and most importantly, you'll be happy with it. This show is the definition of trust the process, and I adore it very much. To Carter and Craig, thank you for this show. And Josh, thanks for executing the most imperfect role in the most perfect way. I love that. Yeah.
That's a great compliment. Yeah.
Ted Mosby is far from perfect, but he's better because he's human. You did a great job portraying that. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you, Amanda.
Unbelievable. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you to all of you.
I just love that the framing of that was like, flashback to when I was 19. By the way, I'm still 19. I enjoyed the framing of that very much. I remember when I was 19, 7 months ago. I'm still 19. Okay, I loved it. Amanda, amazing message. Thank you for that.
Yeah, fantastic. Craig, what's it like for you when you hear all this?
It's mind-blowing. It's absolutely mind-blowing knowing that it helped people get through a hard time and, gave them some sort of framing device for their own life in a way.
Yeah.
It's very humbling because we started off here. We are at the beginning of talking about this series. We never could have imagined it would lead to messages like that. It's deeply humbling, and we don't take it lightly. Thank you, best fans
And
in the world.
I think that at your best, at the wildest edges of your imagining of what the show could be, it's that, right?
Yeah.
No, just you make art with the hope. I hope it's like a message in a bottle. Like, I hope this reaches someone, and I hope the message is not, eroded and destroyed by the time it gets there. There's something so great about you show something and they have the response and beyond even your response, the response of what you would hope. I just find it incredibly moving when art is received in such an open-hearted, sincere, beautiful way. It must be really, we share in it, but you really, you and Carter and your team, penned the thing. So I just think, I hope other people who are listening to How I Met Your Mother, even other people, who worked on How I Met Your Mother, the props department and the editors and the, I'm sure people who worked on the show are tuning into this. I hope they also feel some sense of, wasn't it incredible to be a part of something this special?
Yeah, everybody put their heart and soul into it, and it got a lot of the people who worked on it, Josh and I included, making the show helped us get through some of our hardest times, I find that it just seems like some of that energy made it into the show. Like, the show was that to us in creating it in real time. And now people years and years later, and people who are 19 years old and going through their own hard time are feeling that in the show. And it just makes me feel like we baked something in there that's lasting.
Yeah. And also this notion of watching characters go through hard times with this sense of chosen family and community, and that they landed on their feet and they were able to laugh in the midst of hard times.
Yeah.
Like, How I Met Your Mother was still, it was brightly lit. It was shot on a soundstage. There's laughter piped in. It was a fantasy, but it also was attempting to gesture at something very true about being alive.
I am guilty. Please acquit me. All sins are forgiven. In New York City.
How We Made Your Mother is hosted and executive produced by Josh Radnor and Craig Thomas. The show was produced by me, Alec Webb, and our co-producer is Doug Matka. Our audio producer and mixer is Alex Reeves at Point of Blue Studios. Artwork by John Morrow. Please follow, rate, and review the show on Apple Podcasts or your podcast player of choice. It really does help the show. Our theme song is NYC by our own Josh Radnor. Special thanks to Lola Kennedy and Elliot Connors. Visit howwemadeyurmother.com to sign up for our Substack mailing list and for links to our social media. You can also click on the contact page to send us an email or a voice message. Your stories and questions are an important part of the show. Subscribe to Josh Radnor's newsletters on Substack. Read Craig Thomas's published prose at craigthomaswriter.com. And you can subscribe to my Dead Fathers Society, also on Substack. To learn about how you make a difference, this show's ongoing campaign to raise money for congenital heart disease research, check out the Make a Difference tab at the top of our website. This episode was made possible by the support of Backyard Ventures, marketing provided by Tink Media. People will, in fact, dance.
The real question. It just hit me. Am I in love with you? Or just New York City?
I remember in season 1, we would have to drive somewhere else to sound mix the show. And the guard letting me on was like, How I Met Your Mother, that's that reality dating show, right?
Yeah.
And I think I was like, yes, it is.
Well, the first reaction was always, sorry, what about my mother?
What did you say about my mother?